You are gangsters. You are gangsters. Fuck you. You're a little punk. You're a softie. You're a nobody. Your movies suck. You're trash. You're trash. You're done. You're done after this guy died. You're done. Don't start playing on us.
And that was Robert De Niro getting a mouthful from the people of New York. Thank God for New Yorkers. I love how they tell it straight. And welcome to the Breakaway USA News Show. My name is Fabian Garcia, and of course, alongside me we have Mr. Kevin Ferris and Mr. David Kate.
Howdy.
And if you haven't seen us before, we are the best news show around because you are going to get independent thought and things that you don't see on the mainstream media. We have an incredible show tonight. Do we not, David?
We absolutely do. We first have to get into Secret Service has reportedly met with local jail officials in New York to make possible preparations for Donald Trump behind bars. What? I mean, that's crazy. We're going to have to talk about that. And at the same time, over this weekend, Libertarian Party had their convention and it was absolute chaos. And then they picked some crazy left extremist nominee. So we're going to have to get into all of that as well. And apparently Biden's donors are freaking out. What could they possibly be freaking out? You got to stay tuned for the entire show because we're going to go over that. And we can't start the week without ending with Kev's quick hit. So make sure that you stay through all of that. Wherever you're watching, smash that subscribe button, retweet, follow us, like this, everything that you can possibly do. We appreciate you all. Kev, what do you think? Should we get into the first story?
Oh, let's get into the first story. We have so much to talk about, like you said, with the Secret Service, but also just the Trump trial in general. A lot of little updates. We've obviously been following this story for quite a while here as it's become one of the biggest news stories nationwide, if not even internationally. For the first time, it has been we actually have in America a former United States president and current political rival of the current president on trial and potentially facing jail time. And while it's been speculated for quite a while that this is all because of Joe Biden and his DOJ, we actually have it confirmed today as the Biden-Harris campaign held a press conference with quote-unquote special guests right outside of the courthouse. Now, here's the thing, is that President Biden could have just said this whole time, and this probably would have been his smartest political move. He could have just said, hey, everybody, let's just let this be and let the Justice Department do what it's supposed to do. I believe in our justice system and they will do what they need. He could have stayed out of it, but them holding a campaign rally right outside is absolutely insane. And I believe in that post that I sent there's a little bit more about Robert De Niro and him being the quote unquote special guest, a washed up actor that used to be in some good mob movies. Let's take a look at some of these videos of Robert De Niro.
I mean, this is really.
Before we get into this one, can we pause? I want to hear a little bit about what he has to say, and we should. But I want to point out how in that first video, New Yorkers were obviously being New Yorkers with some quite vulgar comments towards De Niro.
Sure were.
And along with that, also notice how he was wearing a mask. Everybody, you can sleep safely tonight knowing that your grandma is safe because Robert De Niro was wearing a mask.
Thank you, Robert De Niro, for showing us the way.
Absolutely. But if you guys have any thoughts on just even the intro of him walking up.
No, it's hilarious. And it's exactly what Democrats are doing right now. They're trying to make this a show. If you didn't actually see there in the background, those were actually people that were part of the January 6th. They were Capitol Police that were there on January 6th. So what the Biden administration did, they sent out these political operatives, essentially. They sent out Robert De Niro, and then they sent out January 6th Capitol Police to divert the attention back to what all of this election is for them. And it is basically democracy. It's time to save democracy because look how bad January 6th was. So that's what this whole show was all about that we just saw there.
Yeah. It goes back to what people have been saying for quite a while now, and it's being proven true time and time again is that the celebrities that are the most woke and the most anti-Trump tend to be the ones with the most dirt that they need to hide and kept under the rug. We all know about handlers, how the CIA has handlers for a lot of these celebrities. Kanye West had a very public tirade that he launched against his handler, and where he posted screenshots of texts that said, "Let's meet, and if you can relax and you can see your kids. If you can't calm down and do what we tell you, then you're not going to see your kids, and I'm going to put you back into rehab." And Kanye West kind of exploded all this. Hey, we have handlers, and this is mine, and it's pretty incredible. In a second, I want to show you something that I actually uncovered that's kind of endemic of what's been happening with celebrities, especially Robert De Niro.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about a lot of different celebrities' opinions today and people that have even become celebrities. But I do want to make sure we hear a little bit about what Robert De Niro had to say outside of the courthouse, because it's worth, if he took all this time to get out there with his handlers, it's worth hearing exactly the words that were prepared for him. But I do want to point out before we get to this video, we can pull it up because it's quick. But back in the times of the Greeks, they oftentimes would not allow in their court system, which our court system is based on that of the ancient Greeks, mixed with ancient Rome as well. But back in the time of ancient Greeks, they wouldn't allow actors to testify in their courts because they were considered to be, quote unquote, professional liars. Consider that as you listen to this.
It's kind of crazy. It's really crazy. And this thing, Donald Trump has created this. He should be telling them not to do this, but he's just, I mean, this is really, even these people over here are it's kind of crazy.
Donald Trump,
it's really crazy. And this
everything that's happening outside of this courthouse, it's all Donald Trump's fault. And that's what these actors, these professional liars will tell you, is that it's all Donald Trump's fault. Everybody who's mad at you, Robert De Niro, for being a professional liar, oh, that's Donald Trump's fault. Donald Trump being in court, 100% all Donald Trump's fault. Everything that could be under the sun. I mean, they even claim that the border crisis today, inflation today, is all Donald Trump's fault, that Biden could have nothing to do with it.
Well, it's Trump derangement syndrome. Nothing new there. And watching Robert De Niro speak right there, I was like, is this Joe Biden 2.0? It kind of sounds just like him. He's barely making a sentence out there. He's trying to make some sense of something that's going on, but he can't. And it's just hilarious to me. But I don't want any of this stuff to distract us from what's actually happening inside the courtroom, because Michael Cohen has indicted himself like 6 times now. He just keeps racking up those felonies, but that won't matter because, the closing arguments just happened. The prosecution absolutely got, slayed, honestly, by the defense. They even legal analysts on CNN said that they fell way short. And we have a clip that we're going to play here in a second. But all of this Robert De Niro, cops coming up from the January 6th event, all this stuff is a distraction to take away from what's happening in the courtroom, because they're going to end up actually indicting or finding Trump guilty at the end of the day. And that's why we're headlining with Secret Services meets with jail officials, because this is very realistic and this will be very unprecedented at the end of the day if we have a political opponent that's in the front right now. He's beating the incumbent president and he's going to end up in jail. Very unprecedented. And it's a very serious thing. And people like Robert De Niro just distracting us from that reality.
No,
yeah,
absolutely.
I do want to make a point really quick, because I know we want to get into the Secret Service meeting with the jailers, but to go back for a quick second to this man that we know as Robert De Niro, I want to share something, okay? Because as I said earlier, celebrities that are so anti-Trump tend to be the ones with the most stuff that they want to keep under the rug. And wouldn't you know, there was a sex scandal and a prostitution ring that was linked to Robert De Niro in 1998. And let me just read something very, very quickly. The case uncovers the brutal methods used to snare young women, some as young as 15, into a call girl agency specializing in wealthy, high-profile clients. It also exposes attempt by French government to block an investigation into which might embarrass senior politicians and damage interest abroad for friends. 6 people are charged with the running of an international prostitution ring whose call girls entertain the actor Robert De Niro. So it's pretty insane. The agency specializes in tricking or trapping starstruck teenage girls into selling their bodies with the promise of careers and models and actors. And here's the last thing I'll share. Very interesting. When you see that the bodyguard for Robert De Niro is the exact same bodyguard for Sam Bankman-Fried. Well, what could possibly have happened that he has the same bodyguard, which I call handler? Pretty interesting.
Isn't it also interesting, too, that this event was a Biden-Harris event? It wasn't a Robert De Niro event. It was a Biden-Harris event. It was for their campaign. This was a campaign event. This wasn't Robert De Niro on his own accord going out there. I'm willing to bet that there was in some way some level of compensation for him going out there. And yet still the same bodyguard. Really interesting catch there, Fabian.
Yeah. You know, and I have to give it to Dom Lucra for posting that, because he posted that, and I said, that's actually, sorry, he didn't post, he posted a sex scandal one. And, you know, he uncovers some incredible things, and now the whole world is here to see it. An article from 1998 suddenly dug up, and for a reference point, it's the same person who came out now and was paraded in front of the courthouse. And because maybe he's, you know, kind of like a New Yorker, they thought he would do well there. Apparently not, because New York seems to be changing very rapidly.
Yeah, they are. And listen, it's the play that we keep seeing over and over. It's elites, celebrities coming out to say how terrible Trump is. Look, he's in court. He's about to be found guilty. January 6th, the end of our democracy, all in the time of the election. It's the same playbook that they keep repeating over and over. And honestly, the people are fed up with it, because as we'll see in the couple segments, they could care less about this. Even if they find Trump guilty, the American people don't care about that. They care about the fact that the southern border is wide open. Our taxpayer money isn't going to close that up. It's actually going to facilitate that crisis by flowing money into NGOs. Our economy is not that good. I mean, we have problems left and right, and American people could care less about this. And the elites are so disconnected that they go on TV and make fools of themselves.
You're absolutely right. And while I'll continue to say that actors and such are professional liars to some extent, and what I mean by that significantly is to take what they say with a grain of salt. It makes me so sad when we see these politicians and stuff shuffle out these actors and celebrities as if just because they starred in a movie I liked 30 years ago means that I should consider their political opinion as somehow greater than that of somebody who actually knows what they're talking about. It's absolutely insane to me. But as we do highlight a lot of these people that are these De Niros and these others that speak highly of Biden, it's important to also point out when somebody like Clint Eastwood, or in this case, I just sent this clip in the private chat, Fabian, of Dennis Quaid. And I want to talk about Dennis Quaid here in this clip. I don't think it's that one. There we go. On Piers Morgan, that I believe this just came out today, just to show that there are people, and Dennis Quaid is just going viral recently because he's playing Ronald Reagan, in a new anti-woke biopic about Ronald Reagan's life. Take a look and listen at this clip.
I was ready not to vote for Trump until what I saw is more than politics. I see a weaponization of our justice system.
Yeah.
And a challenge to our Constitution, us as Americans, that I don't think we're going to have. And, you know, Trump is the most investigated person probably in the history of the world. And they haven't been able to really get him. People might call him an asshole, but he's my asshole.
Oh, my God.
Now,
the way he said that.
And now I got to admit, I don't love that quote at the end there, but the idea of what he was saying, I think that resonates a lot more with the average person than anything De Niro had to say. What do you guys think?
You know, it's funny because there are people who are still using, these are low information voters, people who don't really tune in, who are busy doing things, and who maybe haven't been following what's happening, even though it should be in everyone's face. And, you know, to some extent it is, but some people are just so busy with their lives, or they're not political, they're apolitical, they still think, oh, Trump's a bad guy. He's kind of mean, right?
Mhm.
Because they're kind of thinking about what they last heard of him, maybe in 2020, 2018, and they're just tuning in. We know a lot of voters just tune in to what's happening in the election a few months before the actual election, and sometimes don't even make up their mind, even though it's pretty wild to think like this, that people don't even make up their mind to the last week. Now, I don't think that this election is going to be the same as all these previous elections. I think we have glaring problems that you can see every time you go out, when you buy gas, when you go to a restaurant, this crazy inflation. But it's just interesting to see how things have changed. And now everything's coming out, and we have this potentially disastrous verdict that's going to spell disaster for our justice system for the rest of history, to have this blemish if they do convict him. So I think it's a very serious and very important time. And if you have people out there who are apolitical, you need to tell them this is what's happening. You need to get them into the game, get some skin to the game, and help them see the truth.
I agree with you, Fabian. This is so important for people that are perhaps not so in tune with politics on a daily basis or even on a weekly basis, and they could care less about all this stuff. They just vote or may not vote at all. But when they see clips like this of celebrities like this coming out and saying, you know what, I don't, I want Trump because things are not good right now. It departs so much from what we're used to seeing from elites like this and celebrities like this, that it's very refreshing to see. And you can see that it's very authentic. And it goes back to my original point that the American people could care less about all of this stuff, all these trials and whatnot. I'm sure some care, but the majority of Americans care about just a couple things. How the economy is going, and am I safe or not in my house? And, you got to just ask yourself, how is it compared to Trump, and how is it compared right now with Biden?
Absolutely. The common question is, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And chances are, I'd be willing, unless you're part of the uniparty, the answer is probably no, you're not better off. But we have other things to talk about. And I think that's a great quote that's on the screen right now. Make sure you guys are commenting, because I want to know what you guys have to say. But I think this one right here is really what I want to point out. The Biden team knows De Niro is a distraction. All of these celebrities are a distraction. And so I want to quickly cover what's been going on in the courtroom, as well as surrounding the courtroom in the actual trial. And so this was originally what we were going to talk about here. We're going to cover this quick because I know that we want to wrap up this segment, but real quick is the idea that the Secret Service was meeting with New York jail officials to actually discuss the possibility of Trump being found guilty in this. Thoughts on the idea that Trump actually might be serving in jail in Rikers is what the rumor is.
Well, I'll go real quickly, Fabian. At the very beginning of this trial, it seemed like political pundits and the overall common consensus between people that were politically active and whatnot was that this could never happen. And I was just baffled by that. You have a jury in New York. This case is already going to trial, and now it's just amongst peers essentially to see, are they going to convict them or not? So I always thought that this was a likelihood thing. Now we're getting into the serious part of it. I feel like this is just a procedural thing, which is very unprecedented, but eventually we would have seen this, because possibly if Trump does get found guilty, then he will most likely have to face some time behind the bars. And what that will look like, we don't know, which is why we are seeing this headline today.
Yeah, I think if they do end up convicting, I mean, just obviously Secret Service, they got to do what they got to do to make sure they cover all corners, right? They do a fantastic job at that. If this happens, I don't see any instance, and Kevin, being our legal expert here on the show, I'd like to get your take on this, is if there is a conviction, there would be some kind of negotiation at the very worst, some kind of house arrest or some kind of massive fine. But to actually put time behind bars and have Secret Service inside of the jail with Trump, which is what the story said, that the Secret Service would have to be in jail with Trump. And then it'd be the corrections officer's duty to protect the Secret Service agents as well as Trump. Imagine being a Secret Service agent to say, hey, for 8 hours or 12 hours a day, you got to go into the jail and just hang out with Trump. I mean, what a wild sight that would be if a picture came out like that, to have Trump in a jail cell with Secret Service around him, but in jail. Imagine that.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And so in terms of my what I have to legally say is an unprofessional opinion, as I'm only a law student and not necessarily a bar certified attorney, is from my understanding, it would be the judge's decision as to what the actual punishment would be. And while there'd be pleading from both the prosecution and the defense as to what a reasonable punishment would be, it would ultimately be the judge's decision. And so what the judge could do is say, they could try to, as long as it doesn't walk the vague line of cruel and unusual, it could be where he has to spend his days in jail in a cell, and then he can go home at night to sleep in a bed, or like, I don't know, but what it could ultimately do is further, just as much as the judges put a gag order on Trump, limiting his ability to speak, they could limit his ability to hold rallies and limit his ability to campaign, limit where he can spend his money. Like, there are so many different ways in which they can limit him as a political candidate. But there is one thing, and this is how I'd like to close out this segment. I don't know if we have it, the Kash Patel segment, production. If I sent that, maybe, yes, I believe I sent one that said Kash Patel as the headline. And this is how I'd like to close it out. I don't want to talk about this. I think we'll all agree on exactly what Kash Patel has to say in this podcasting clip. And this is the final thought.
And that's what they wanted, because the judge in this case and the prosecutors know that they'll never publicly admit, if they jail Donald Trump, he's going to win overnight. Mm-hmm. If Donald Trump is found guilty, which, because it's a rigged system, there's a likelihood that he might, they are going to have to allow Donald Trump to stay out on bond while he appeals this bogus trial. Otherwise, this country is going to go nuts.
Well, Trump got the
and that's
yeah, I agree.
I mean, fully agree with him. And like you said, Kev, no reason to disagree here or discuss this any further. We all agree with that.
Exactly. And now we'll come back later, talk about the Libertarian Party chaos and everything that happened there. But we do have to take a quick break and a word from our sponsors.
All right. And we would like to take a quick second before we get to our Libertarian Party chaos to shout out our amazing and wonderful sponsor, Freedom 2O. They are an incredible water company. They stand for the First Amendment. They have a lot of freedom fighters that are supporting them as well. They are the official water of Turning Point USA. So whenever you see Charlie Kirk out there, you're going to see them. They're coming up on ActCon, which we will be at in Detroit. With them alongside live streaming and interviewing everyone that we possibly can. Make sure you check them out. They're a big proponent of freedom of speech, and their labels have very catchy sayings. It says, you can't deprogram freedom. You have a whole batch coming out. They have an incredible water filtration process that includes ozone, O3 ozonation, UV light, bacteria killing protection, as well as reverse osmosis. So check them out at freedom20.com if you want to help the show, help them, they help us. Let's all help each other. freedom20.com/USA, and you can check them out there. They're also available on Amazon if you prefer to do that.
Well, exactly. And even with that, I got to say, not to take up too much of our time, but I get told all the time, like, I don't know if you guys have ever been to any doctor's appointment ever, but they'll always be like, even the most fit person, the person who is in the most shape, they'll always be like, you could probably drink more water. Nobody ever, I don't know a single person where they're like, yes, I drink as much or too much water in my day as I'm supposed to. And so you could be drinking more water. It'd be good for you to drink more water. And if it would be good for you to drink more water, don't you think it would also be to drink water that is good for you? And as Fabian just listed, there are tons of reasons why Freedom 2.0 is not only good for you in terms of they support the things that you support, but they're also good for you because it doesn't use fluoride, because they have a special treatment cycle that all your other bottled water brands don't go through. And so, yeah, maybe it could be a hassle. You have to order it online instead of picking it up at Walmart. Sure, maybe. But don't you want something that's good for you, good for us, and good for America? Why
I know
not?
I do. But you know who probably doesn't, because apparently they don't like freedom too much, is the folks that we're going to talk about next, which are the libertarians.
You know, folks is too close to fucks. I got to be honest. Those
Well,
fucks, those libertarians.
yeah, well, I hate. Might as well just said that honestly, but yeah, libertarians. I like to always say this. Sometimes I dislike them even more than Democrats because they, oh my God, they piss me off. And this weekend was a perfect representation of it because listen, they had Trump come in and speak to them. They had RFK Jr. come and speak to them. This was probably the biggest crowd the Libertarian Party National Convention has historically ever seen. And it's hilarious because they dumped both of those. Obviously, Trump wasn't a legitimate nominee for them because he's the presumptive Republican nominee, so not able to accept it. And RFK Jr., when it came down for voting for it, literally got 19 votes, which comes out to being 2%. So he got eliminated in the first round. Well, they ended up actually picking who? An extreme leftist. I don't even know what to label him. A progressive Marxist. I mean, I don't know who this dude is, but his name is Chase Oliver, right? And this is the presidential nominee for the Libertarian Party, which I mind you gets a whopping 1%, a couple million votes, whatever. But let's just watch this video of him talking about if he had kids, because again, he's gay. If he had kids, what he would do with them in a drag show. So let's watch this.
Why do you think that the drag queens want to read to children?
Because I think that they are performance artists and they want to be able to have different levels of performance art. It's the same reason as why do the Wiggles sing to children? Because they want to have a marketplace to kids.
Chase,
they want to be able to. They want to be
the
able
Wiggles.
to.
The Wiggles is made for children. It's obviously family friendly material. Drag queens are not what you call family friendly kind of entertainment.
Okay, but a man in a dress is what drag is, right? I mean, let's just be real. A man in a dress or a woman in a suit is what drag is. Mm-hmm. That is not inherently sexual. There is inherently sexual drag. And you're not going to convince me. I mean, I'm not going to defend otherwise. There absolutely is. But there's also the ability to perform as a man in a wig without being sexual. And that is what this is. And I guarantee you, if you act like I said, I went for myself because I was like, why are there people protesting this thing? I want to see what this drag queen story time is myself, and I want to see what it is. And nothing sexual is going on. And I think that is the truth for 99% of this. And I think
would you take your kids to a drag queen story hour? Or would you drop them off at a drag queen story hour? And
I don't think that's what happens. Most of the time the parents are right there with the kids, but
I'm asking you, would you drop your kids off at a drag queen story hour and come back an hour later?
I mean, would you drop your kids off at a movie? Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, fellas, before I get your takes on this, that's Chase Oliver, obviously, but he has a couple other stances, which I thought that we have to point out here. He's pro open border, so obviously doesn't believe in sovereignty or anything of that kind. He is for lockdowns. He's for vaccine mandates. And a third one, which, I was about to say, I can't remember, but this this topic reminded me, or this clip right there reminded me, he absolutely loves the idea of castrating kids, essentially. So, fellas, what do you think about this libertarian nominee right here?
Kev?
I think you should go first, Fabian.
All right. Yeah. So because I know what Kev's going to do. He's going to break something or yell. So let me give the other take on it, which is he has a misconception about what Drag Queen Story Hour actually is and was actually said to do by the creator called Lil Miss Hot Mess, which created Drag Queen Story Hour. And this is in the scientific journal. And I'm going to say, quote, scientific journal, because Drag Queen Story Hour was literally invented by a drag queen named Lil Miss Hot Mess, who is this big thing in the drag community. But its intentions are, we want to read the children into filth. And those are the exact words that they use. And I wish I had it that we can pull it up. But what it does is it wants to show children how to live queerly, and to them, queerly doesn't mean trans or homosexual. It just means different than normal, because what they want to do is they want to break whatever heteronormativity they think is a problem in the world that's gotten us this far, and then just switch it and confuse children. They wear these very colorful dresses in Drag Queen Story Hour, the journal, the scientific paper. They say that they do it because they want the kids to see someone fun. Whereas a teacher is very authoritarian, very strict. The parents are also very strict. This person allows them to go on a fairy tale in their mind of unicorns and puppies. And they say, I like that person. They are fun. They don't tell me no. They allow me to do whatever I want. That's how they draw children into this queer ideology. And it's despicable, and they're groomers, and I'll say it because that's exactly what they are.
Kev, your thoughts on this libertarian nominee right here?
You know, I'm not going to break anything besides your minds. I love him.
All right. Tell me why.
I love him. I just needed everybody to take that in for a second. But I love him because he's not competition. He works for us in a way, in the fact that when we think about it, whoever the libertarians were to nominate, if not Donald Trump, would be competition for Donald Trump, or could be. And so they're nominating somebody who stands for things that Donald Trump voters and people who would vote for Donald Trump would not agree with.
That's a good point.
And so I love that they nominated this guy, because if they nominated somebody who was ardently, like, not conservative, but ardently almost anarchist in their viewpoint, and was anti-government, hated all of it, attacked Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and hated all of them, and hated everything both of them stood for, and basically wanted to, like, Ted Kaczynski the government, then yeah, Donald Trump would probably hurt. He could lose 0.5 to a full % of a vote, which in an election, a presidential election, could actually decide it. So I love that they chose this guy, because had they chose RFK, that could maybe kind of hurt Trump, because then RFK would have more substantial normal backing, as he currently doesn't really have much. Had they chose somebody who was, like, actually a libertarian, then yeah, it could have hurt Donald Trump. But this guy, this helps Donald Trump. So
you're absolutely right. He really does help Trump here, and I think that if they would have picked like RFK Jr., that would have been disastrous for the Trump camp, simply because of the automatic ballot access across battleground states that he would have had there, right? Which I'm pretty sure he just locked in North Carolina, so he's still struggling. He's up to like 6 total states where he's on the ballot right now. People don't realize that RFK is literally on just 6 states, not 6 battleground states, 6 states in total, but might be 7 or 8 now. But fellas, I want your take on this real quickly. We production, if we can cue up that video, I sent it in last minute about Trump taunting the Libertarian Party, which I found to be absolutely hilarious. And not just to laugh at this, because I actually want Shell's take about this. Why did Trump show up? Why did RFK Jr. show up? Did they achieve whatever it was that they tried to achieve by coming to the convention, by speaking to libertarians? Did they sway some people? Or did Trump just come in there to do what this video is all about? Let's go ahead and play this.
That's nice. Only if you want to win. Only if you want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Thank you, D-Roy. Thank you. No, only do that if you want to win. If you want to lose, don't do that. Keep getting your 3% every 4 years. The reasons for doing so. That's nice.
Oh my God. So obviously he taunts them with the fact that they literally 3% would be incredible. That's their historical high, was 3% 2016 with Gary Johnson. Usually they get about a 1%, right? So fellas, what was the whole point of Trump going there? What was RFK Jr.'s whole point of going there? What do y'all think?
You know, I think they both just wanted the publicity and try to siphon people away from the Libertarian Party to go vote for them, right? Obviously. But here's why I think I agree with Kevin in that they picked this disastrous choice. I don't know how the hell this guy even got vote. Who are these libertarians? Like, who in the hell are they? But here's one thing that was very that stood out to me a lot. When Trump was making that speech, and I watched the whole thing like twice because it was so good. It was so good. You had some of the crowd that was booing for him and part of the crowd that was cheering for him. So you saw this divide in the Libertarian Party itself over people who supported him, and it was about 50-50. That's what it sounded like to me. So if you have people who are cheering Trump, and the Libertarians, they select this little spaghetti arm dude, Chase Oliver, then you're going to effectively destroy the Libertarian Party, split the vote so that half people potentially will go to Trump, and then half the other people are going to write his name in or something, this Chase Oliver guy. So I think this only helps Trump, because if, as you said, RFK only got like 19 votes out of the entire convention, which is insane. I thought it'd be more. That means they're not going to go to JFK, and they're for sure not going to go for Biden if they're libertarian. So what does that leave? That leaves one option, and that's a person who half the convention was cheering for.
Yeah, well, there's that. I think so. I covered this topic before Chase Oliver was nominated on my show on Sunday, but Chase Oliver just even confirms it further. Is that I think they both achieved what they set out to do in going to this, and they were different. I do think that they were different. I think the publicity sure could be a shared reason to go there, but I do think it was different. I think RFK Jr. went there because he needed to go there, and I say that because RFK Jr. has gone to, besides our podcast for some reason, has literally gone on every possible podcast, platform, speech he's been invited to, even the ones that he hasn't been invited to. He will go literally anywhere to talk because as an independent candidate, he needs that exposure. Even though he has the name recognition, even though he's getting the media publicity, he needs to work to further connect with people because he doesn't have the automatic, like, kind of just, oh, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I am one of the major party nominees. He needs to go everywhere. He needed to go to this convention. Trump, however, didn't need to go to this convention. He could win without it. What he wanted to show is that he was going to be the unifying president. He actually even said it a few times in that speech about the idea of unifying libertarians and bringing them. And even in that roast a little bit, he was trying to say, I'm going to bring you guys in. You want to know, like, the thing is that so many libertarians, so many people look at libertarians and are like, oh, those are the libertarians. They're just like the Green Party, or even the same way some people see like Marjorie Taylor Greene or like parts of the Freedom Caucus. Like, oh, they're just fringe. Like, they're just contrarian to be contrarian. People write them off. Donald Trump was up there trying to say, hey, do you want people to take you seriously? We didn't play this clip, but he said in that speech, he said, I'm going to invite libertarians to be a part of my cabinet, to be in leadership positions. I'm going to make it so that people will take you seriously. He was going there not because he needed to, because he wanted to, because he wants to unite people against the uniparty. Donald Trump is not a conservative. Donald Trump is not running as a Christian cross Catholic or Christian, whatever. He's not running as a traditional conservative Republican. Donald Trump is running as an anti-uniparty candidate, and he knows that libertarians, by and large, are against the uniparty. And so if they want to be taken seriously, if they want to go against the uniparty, if they want to stop getting just their 3%, then they'll jump on the Trump train, all aboard. And if you don't want to, that's fine. We don't need you, but we want you if you want to be a part of it. Get on the train or get out of the fucking way. That's what he was there to
do. I love it, Kev. That's perfect. I think that summarizes the entire chaos that we were talking about. And that's exactly it. I mean, to just close off this segment is that obviously there's a bunch of people who are voting third party, libertarian. They're disenfranchised by the two political party system. They're probably disenfranchised by the establishment, like you said, Kev, is that they don't like the uni-party aspect of it. But I think that when it comes down to an actual representation of your values being institutionalized, or some sort of representation of your values or whatever it is, I think that if I was a libertarian and I was looking at it, I would say, well, let me join forces with Trump. And I'm not going to say Republicans, with Trump himself, the coalition that he brings and whatnot, because libertarians, like I just said, they don't like the uni party. They're anti-war. That's probably one of the biggest things. And looking at both of the all three candidates. I mean, I don't want to validate Chase Oliver over here. So looking at what we actually have, I don't know why anybody would vote Chase Oliver. It's a Joe Biden 2.0. Libertarians don't like that stuff. So I would hopefully see them voting Trump. And I think we saw that in the crowd there. Gentlemen, any last thoughts before we go to a break? Before we get into
I want to roast this Chase Oliver guy. I'm going to do
Please.
some more investigations to him, and then maybe on the next episode we'll go a little deeper into Mr. CO, Mr. Spaghetti Arm Mafia Man.
No, we absolutely should. I just think I will say, as much as I just like roasted everybody besides Trump in that last thing, I will say I do think it's really funny that one thing that RFK Jr. did do at the Libertarian Convention is he brought rubber chickens to hand out to the crowd to squeak during Trump's debate, because I do think that RFK, if he meets all the qualifications, RFK, Trump, and Biden should all be on that debate stage come what is it, June 27th and further. And so I will give him credit for that. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we've spoke about this on previous shows, is that it seems like he meets all the requirements for it. So hopefully he's on that stage for sure. That's what this country actually needs. And he'll be the perfect disruptor for everything there.
Yep.
Kev for VP. That's damn right.
Before
we go to commercial break, make sure that you retweet this. Anything that's on your screen, go ahead and click it there. And if you're already not part of our Telegram group, make sure that you join us on Telegram, because that's where you get updates on the show, updates on all the breaking news, especially stuff that we can't put out anywhere else. So screenshot this, you'll have that barcode there, or just go to t.me/breakaway and join our group and community. We'll be right back after a quick short break.
Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Do you guys want to do the
blah,
ad
blah, blah.
instead
Blah,
of
blah, 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 blah,
and then after that, what does it say after that?
Remind me.
I forget the
Blah, 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 blah.
That's hilarious. Well, let's just skip that commercial break and go straight to the next story, because I think we already got the full 26 seconds that commercial break is supposed to be.
There you go. I can
do it. Wait, here it is. I got it.
Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah.
What are you talking about? Here, have some freedom to up.
Man, the Constitution is awesome.
Type 1A.
That was great.
I just needed to for my brain, which I believe it's undiagnosed OCD, is I needed to know what they said after the blah 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 blah. What are you talking about? Okay, I had to know exactly what it was because you asked.
Well, hey Kev, you're not the only one that needs to know things, because Democrats, especially the donors, need to know what the hell is going on, because Democrats are in full-blown freak out over Biden. Who would have ever been surprised? So this is from Politico, actually, and I just want to summarize it briefly for you guys, that Democrats are increasingly anxious about President Joe Biden's re-election prospects. Well, I wonder why. Concerns stem from poor polling, fundraising deficits, and key issues like immigration, inflation, and Biden's age. Trump is ahead in battleground states and aggressively courting Hispanics and Black voters. We went over this in our previous show. Democrats like Massachusetts Governor Maria Healey, they always got the weirdest names up there, are urging donors to step up, while others express fear over Biden's lack of campaign momentum. Democratic operatives and supporters are worried about the impact of Trump's campaigning and the potential consequences for democracy. Now, I just want to give you guys a couple direct quotes. So there's apparently a Democratic operative who works really close with the White House and was granted this ability to anonymously speak to the press about things. But he said, you don't want to be that guy who's on record saying we're doomed, or the campaign's bad, or Biden's making mistakes. Nobody wants to be that guy. Now, another quote that I have from an advisor is that the list of why we could win is so small, I don't even need to keep a list on my phone. So that is the current state of the Biden campaign right there. And we have I'm talking about the multi-millionaire donors freaking the hell out. Fellas, earlier this year, I was on a show where I said perhaps we'll have a change at the convention where perhaps the delegates will say, I don't want this. I want somebody else like Michelle Obama, Gavin Newsom. Now we're seeing that the DNC is actually going to have a virtual roll call for the delegates. So a lot of weird things are happening behind the scenes. Donors are not too happy about it. Fellas, what do you guys think about this report?
I absolutely think and we've all been saying this for quite a while. At the DNC, if they don't believe that Biden can win, I personally believe that the reason why we've been seeing Biden so unhinged is because he's been allowed to become unhinged to make the case at some point to invoke the 25th Amendment or to have him say, I need to step down because of health concerns. At that point, what do? Do you have Kamala take over and then at the convention pull something where she can't be president? Like what exactly do? We've all been waiting for the nuclear option, and we don't know exactly what it is. But I think the more that we call out different playbooks that they could potentially run, the more people are going to wise up and say, no, they already called that one out. So the more that we can pinpoint their possible game plan, the more they have to change the play on live, and it's going to make them harder for them to do anything, which I think is very important for us to keep doing.
Well, I agree. And that's why, like, even if you go back to shows that I did, I don't know if it's quite a year ago now, but at least by last summer, last June, July, I was talking about things like this. J.B. Pritzker, Gavin Newsom nominee for the Democrats. I was talking about Michelle Obama at one point potentially being the nominee and all the different ways in which that could come to fruition. And I don't necessarily think it's out of the question now. However, I do believe they've started to walk themselves into a corner, and maybe this is just the start of a way in which they could switch it over. But I really don't think, Biden has officially announced his campaign. They're constantly making ads that are donor funded, and donors are still donating to the Biden-Harris campaign. The only way
Kev,
would be
I don't want to cut you off there, but I just want to add some an additional thing. What happened in Ohio, though? I mean, that has to raise some eyebrows for you, right? With the fact that they're literally not trying to get Biden on the ballot. The Republicans are willing to work with the Biden administration directly. And the Biden administration pretty much said, screw this. And they ran out of time to do something there. So, I mean, it does, in a sense, you're right. I mean, there's an official campaign. They throw a lot of money onto ads across battleground states, but they're not even trying to get him on the ballot in Ohio. What do you think?
I got to be honest, I don't know that much. That wasn't the Ohio story I was following. I was following how a bank actually got exploded within the last 2 hours in Ohio. That was in Youngstown, Ohio. That was the main story I was following from there. So I don't know as much about their ballot, and I'm not going to claim to. But I think that to some extent, maybe they're phoning it in. Maybe they're hoping that enough people will just be anti-Trump to vote for them. I really don't know what they're doing, but I will always say it's not over till it's over, because Republicans do have a way of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. And we've seen that in 2020. We've seen that in 2022. We've seen that even back in 2012 to some extent. There has been a constant over generations, over decades, way that Republicans have of having the best policy but the worst messaging. And so maybe Democrats have more up their sleeves than we give them credit for. And so the fight is not over. Maybe we're not currently seeing the summer of love that we saw in 2020. Maybe we're not seeing nearly as much chaos that leans in Democrats' favor as we've seen in the past. However, it's not over till it's over, everybody. And let's be honest. I mean, you don't need Ohio to win 270. So,
yeah, I will say this about the campaign is I'm subscribed to their emails because I always like to see what are they emailing. The emails will tell you so much. I'm a marketing expert, and all I do is I sign up for people's email list to see what are they doing? What are they talking about? How many times are they emailing me per month? Here's a weird thing. I have been inundated. I mean, almost to the point of, I'll call it spam, by the Biden campaign. They are sending 4 emails per day out to try to raise money. They're all campaign emails. They call them his MAGA minions. They call them all. It's nonstop fundraising. And I'm like, either they're having a very bad month because of all this stuff that's been happening, or else why would they be trying to raise so much money? Something is going on. And the fact that they're sending out so many emails, trying so hard to raise money, points to something going on.
You know what that something is? First of all, they fell behind Trump last month or last quarter. I'm not sure which one, when it comes down to fundraising. But also what you see in the polling is pretty damn evident. Obviously, we've seen these key battleground states where Trump is up like crazy. But a couple things to consider here is that the black vote is starting to sway to Trump. And I'm not saying that he will win a majority of the black vote or anything like that, but he went from 9% to 20% of black votes supporting him. And he doesn't even need 15, 16% supporting him. Just 13, 14 is plenty. Same thing with Hispanics. I have another poll I want to read for you guys. When it comes down to the issues, a majority of voters say Trump was the better candidate to handle the economy and border security, 54 and 52% respectively. When it comes down to Biden, it's just 34% on the economy and 32% on immigration. So donors see this. They understand that maybe if we blast 4 emails a day, then we'll start to pull in more money. But that money that they'll spend on ads and knocking on doors is not going to override the reality. The reality is that inflation is pretty high. The border is literally wide open. The cost of goods is pretty high. The gas prices are pretty high. And that's why you're seeing polls like Michigan, 48% to 45%, Trump leading by 3%, where in 2020, it was 3% for Biden. And this is Michigan, guys. So,
wow.
Yeah. This is incredible. This is not including RFK Jr., which now, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we were seeing some crazy polls that he's pulling from Trump as well. But now, every poll that we see with RFK Jr. included into it, it drops Biden into the 30s.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, look at these latest polls. Arizona, 47 Biden, 47 Trump. Nevada, Trump is leading by 4. Pennsylvania, Trump leading by 1. Michigan, Trump's leading by 3. Wisconsin, these are all the battleground states Democrats have to win. Like, it's not even a question. They have to win at least a few of these. And I don't see any pathway to victory, especially when you factor in the RFK factor, how he can pull this out.
Yeah, this is incredible. And the polling are very reflective of the situation that's happening right now. And I love this talking point, by the way, by the Democrats. Oh, the problem at the southern border is the Republicans' fault. They didn't pass the bill that was in the House or the Senate. That was a bunch of BS. It was a little trap and everything. So, yeah, this is very reflective of the resentment that I would say is among the American voters. Like we started this show, American voters, the average American could give less of a shit about the trials that Trump is in and whatnot. They care about immigration. They care about the economy. That's the 2 things that they care about. And he's failing on every single front there. So it makes sense why we're seeing incredible polls like this.
Yep.
No, absolutely. But once again, do not get comfortable, everybody. We are still months away. So it's May. It's almost June right now. 6 months. We have 3-4 months before the election. Do not get comfortable. Do not get comfortable.
And Kev, I couldn't stress this enough. Literally do not get comfortable, because if you just start to look down ballot, I'm not saying all the way down to your commissioner races and stuff like that. I'm talking about your Senate race, your House races and everything like that. Democrats, the generic Democrat is still beating the generic Republican candidate. And that is the problem. Although Democrats will go choose a third party or even perhaps Trump over Biden, when they go down the ballot, they're still deciding to go with the Democrat Senate over the Republican Senate. And if you, I really hope this won't happen, but if you have a Democrat majority Senate, then if anything happens to the Supreme Court, you will not be able to confirm a single conservative justice. And that is the biggest problem. We'll gladly get Trump into the White House. That is the #1 mission. But the second mission is to control the Senate, especially in the circumstance of a Supreme Court justice, something happening there, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And with that, fellas, unless you guys have anything else, we might have to go to Kev's quick hits.
Is it time, Fabian?
Guys,
time.
I think it is time for the smashing to begin.
That could be really gay, but don't worry, everybody. We're going to talk about all the gay stuff and more today on Kev's Quick Hits.
All right, I am ready for it.
Use Kev's Quick Hits. We're just going to keep hitting crap here today on Kev's Quick Hits. First up is do we have all them production? I hope we have them up, but I don't always necessarily choose just what I want to talk about. In fact, sometimes I will even allow something that's sent to me to become a quick hit. And so this was sent to me by someone else that was not myself. And this is about a San Diego police officer who apparently, and this is California, which is I'm pretty sure that Fabian is like the dictator and overlord of California. So he must have had something to do with this. In San Diego, a police officer arrests a woman for suspicion of car theft, and then apparently stole her virginity on the way back. Doubt she was a virgin. Definitely no chance. But let's take a look and listen to this clip.
We're just gonna go on my car right here, okay? Is this car right here? On the outside of my car. Yeah. Oh, you're not. Well, I can't hear you now. Don't say that right now. No, I said don't say that right now because everything's being recorded right now. What's going on?
So he shuts his camera off, right?
Yep. Oh, but don't worry.
Wow.
Don't worry. We get to see him. I think my favorite part is when he has to call for backup. I don't know if we paused it, but I want to make sure we get to see. He has to call for backup because he after having some intercourse with some shaboinking, as our Jewish friend David would say. After some canoodling, he locks himself in the back. He locks himself in the back and has to call for backup to allow him to get himself out of the back of the squad car. Do we have the moment? Do we have the moment? Can we see the moment of which he gets let out?
It's like the last 30 seconds. Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
That's the cop already pulled up to rescue his homie.
So this is the friend cop. This is not the one that was canoodling or shaboinking.
All right, sir, step out of the vehicle for me.
And he's out of there. He's bolting.
I'm out. Oh my god.
114 yellow. What code for?
Oh wow.
And he claims he was just checking on her. That's what he claimed until it was quite clear because they even tracked the car. They tracked the car and saw that it was parked oddly in a suburban neighborhood, and like it was pretty obvious that
something was going on back there. Now, I'm not gonna lie, Kev. I'm the one that sent this video to you, as you know, obviously, because I saw this and I was like, this might be hilarious for Kev's quick hits. Literally, it was a quick hit for the officer, but he ended up getting trapped in the back seat with this lady for an hour. So I don't know what's more awkward. Shaboinking the individual that you just arrested and then getting stuck with her in the backseat for an hour after the shaboinking, or having to call up your cop friend and say, hey, listen, buddy, I'm stuck in the backseat with the lady that you just saw me arrest. By any chance, good thumbs up right there. Can you help me?
You know what's funny is so one thing that we left out of the story is that he there was an investigation that was opened into this situation, and the investigation found, drumroll please, semen on his belt. And that is what had him resign or, get fired or whatever happened to him. But they literally found semen on his belt. That's pretty wild.
Man, clean up your shit. What I will say is when I was young, I used to play like cops and robbers with my friends, and I'll tell you, it never got to that point. But we've covered some bad cops, and those are some of the bad apples. But I want to talk about this one. This is a good cop who had to address maybe one of the worst people in the world. So there was a dog that was literally like thrown off of a roof because. Wow. According to the owner, she, quote, like just couldn't take it anymore. But let's take a look at this cop rescuing this dog who had suffered major traumatic injuries.
You don't think the dog's gonna live?
He needs to go to the doctor. He's literally breathing, but he's choking.
Okay.
All right.
We're gonna get there. You want me to call them and give them a heads up? Yeah, call them, please. Tell them we have an emergency.
She threw him. He's in shock. He's bleeding from the mouth. He's breathing though. It's shallow, but he's breathing. He's not responding.
Call the elevator. Right here.
You don't think the dog's gonna live?
So as you guys saw, that was a New York Police Department officer who broke down in tears as she rushed to save a mini poodle's life after his owner threw him off a ledge at a park in Manhattan. Officer Kelsey Garcia is seen jumping into action to save the bleeding dog. 26-year-old Cleopatra Morgan. Yes, that was the name of the person who admitted to throwing her 1-year-old dog off a ledge at Highbridge Park. The dog, Rocket, was rushed to the hospital where he was in critical condition with signs of traumatic brain injury. He was bleeding in his stomach and needed an emergency blood transfusion. He also needed surgery for a fractured femur. And thanks to Officer Garcia, Rocket is expected to survive. I wanted to point this story out because I think the person who threw the dog is just an absolutely terrible person. There was no like this dog was not being aggressive. It was not killing chickens or doing anything that would earn you to be murdered by Kristi Noem. And so all of a sudden this cop, once again, a good cop. We'll talk about the cops that'll sleep with perps and the ones that do bad crap, but there are good ones, even women cops that will come out and they will save the dog when necessary. Any quick thoughts, quick hits on this story?
Look, I'm all for it. I think dogs are awesome. They're a great pet. Screw Kristi Noem for doing all of that stuff. So I know Kristi Noem actually approves of this or disapproves of this story. But yeah, I'm just happy to see a great story. And you're right, Kev. I feel like we always highlight the bad cops. Not we personally, but society. Yeah. So it's always important to show something like this. Shout out to that cop. Seriously.
Yeah, and I think a deeper reason, I'm going to assume here that the person who threw the dog off the ledge potentially had a mental health issue, potentially had a drug issue, because a prudent, sane, sober, moral person would not do anything like that. So the deeper reasoning, or rather the deeper issue here, is why are people in New York doing things like throwing dogs off ledges, like stabbing random bypassers, like throwing people in the tracks so they die? It's just incredible what's happened in New York. And I live in LA, and even I'm saying this stuff, right? Because the same thing happens here. But I feel like you hear on the news every single day, it's either LA, New York, LA, New York. Two of the bluest states. Kind of random about how that works, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Some of the craziest people live in those states. But speaking of crazy people, we're going to talk about my leader because I'm a good Catholic boy. I always have my cross right on me right here. But my leader, the Pope, who I've talked about before, Pope Francis apologizes, which makes me mad, for using a vulgar Italian slur to refer to LGBT
Legitimatica.
Legitimatica. So Pope Francis apologized Tuesday after he was quoted using a vulgar term about gays to reaffirm the Catholic Church's ban on gay priests. I bring this up because just in a few days, we enter the Legitimatica month of Pride, which is one of the 7 deadly sins. But a Vatican spokesman, Matteo Bruni, issued a statement acknowledging the media storm that erupted about Francis's comments, which were delivered behind closed doors to Italian bishops on May 20th. So, if in case you guys were wondering and you hadn't been following, Pope Francis has been consistently called woke and other things by conservative Catholics because he's taken certain stances on some things that are considered less traditional in terms of saying that we can bless Catholic or bless gay marriages and other things. And he's come out and usually clarified a lot of what he says, but it's still deemed more progressive to say so. But in this instance, he uses a term which apparently can still get you canceled. Italian media on Monday had quoted unnamed Italian bishops in reporting that Francis jokingly used the term faggotness while speaking in Italian during the encounter. He had used the term in reaffirming the Vatican's ban on gay men to enter seminaries and be ordained. The specific quote was something along the lines of, I don't know if it says it in this article, I don't think it does, but he specifically said there was already too much faggotry within seminarians already. And so here's the thing. And a lot of people, and I want to talk about this because I want to get your guys' reaction to this because it wasn't even the Pope that came out and apologized. It was like a spokesperson because they realized, oh man, a lot of people are mad about this, blah, blah, blah. I don't think the Pope actually feels bad about it at all. The thing is that when it comes to the Catholic Church and when it comes to this is that we're well aware being gay is a sin. And we have never affirmed homosexuality, unlike the Methodists. This is not like uncommon, like something like this, even among friends, joking with that term is not uncommon. And so for everybody to be coming out and being really mad about this is honestly makes it even funnier. But I want to know your guys' thoughts.
I love the word faggot because it can mean many, many things. I use it all the time. It's actually gotten me shadow banned 2 times on Instagram because I post on my story, why can't I say this word? That being said, it literally I get mad and I post it and I immediately get shadow banned for like another 2 months. Yeah. So I'm just coming off my latest one. I'm going to try to refrain from using the word as a goodwill gesture towards making sure everyone else gets to see other good news stories that I post on my story. That being said, the Pope had said some outlandish things in recent months, including the fact that we need open borders and that stopping people from coming in and trying to kick them out is a disaster, and all these other crazy stuff. Could this be his Fetterman moment where he just flips a switch and he goes against everything? Maybe, maybe not. Either way, I think First Amendment should apply to everyone in every single country. Even the Pope should be allowed to say what he wants to say without having a spokesperson de facto apologize for him for something he willingly said and meant.
Yeah, no, and that's my whole like take on this thing is that like I've heard in the last few years like the Pope not really be too Catholic, right? They always make the joke of like now it's like an actual question, is the Pope Catholic? But the unfortunate thing to see here is to see how strong this whole influence of Legitimatica is on even religion and such important institutions and whatnot, because to have the Pope come out and say faggotry or faggot, whatever he was talking about, and then to have to go back on it or say I'm sorry, or to have a spokesperson come out and say I'm sorry, it just shows you how strong Legitimatica is over religious institutions. And
yeah, well, and again, I think it's really funny because I think actually one of the only Christian sectors or sects, whatever, denominations, that's the word I was looking for. One of the only Christian denominations that is currently growing in numbers is Catholicism. And so I think that they're looking for any hit they could possibly have. So even a closed door meeting in which he says something that's a little off color is going to make these massive headlines because they're trying to hit on people that are trying to bring people towards a better way of living. Whether you're a different denomination, you disagree with Catholicism, whatever, being a Catholic is a better way of living than being an atheist. And I feel like we can agree on that. And they don't want you to be that. They don't want you to be a Catholic. They don't want you to be a Christian. They don't want you to be a Jew. Why? Because you actually have a clear set of morals if you are any of those. If you're secular or atheist, you don't.
Yep,
exactly.
That's exactly
that I will
it.
agree with.
You don't. And speaking of people that don't really have morals, let's get into the next quick hit, which is about billionaires. I call this one Submersible Part 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Oh no.
An Ohio billionaire is to take a deep sea submersible to the Titanic to prove it's safe now after the Ocean Gate implosion. If you guys don't know, one of the biggest stories of 2023 was when a billionaire and some of his buddies died after spending a crap ton of money to try to get to the Titanic, and it's said that they died pretty quickly into their expedition. An Ohio billionaire now, however, is planning to take a deep sea submersible to the bottom of the ocean floor in the northern Atlantic to tour the wreckage of the Titanic just 1 year after another submersible imploded at that site. Real estate investor Larry Connor said that he will be making the voyage in a two-person submersible more than 12,000 feet deep with Triton Submarines co-founder Patrick Leahy. Leahy, speaking about Connor, told the Wall Street Journal, "We had a client, a wonderful man. He called me up and said, you know, what we need to do is build a sub that can dive repeatedly and safely and demonstrate to the world that you guys can do that. And that Titan was a contraption." And I responded, I could spend money a lot better than these dumbass billionaires could. But what do you guys think?
So, clarification, Kevin, is this going to be using the same company that made the other one that imploded, or is this a separate company?
I will admit I'm not 100% sure, but
Okay.
I believe this is different. I believe this is a different company.
So to me, this is taking that.
Maybe
that
it's the same though,
TikTok-
because so the original one says, I believe it's safe after Ocean Gate. So I believe it might be the same because the first one was called Ocean Gate Titan, and so maybe it is the same company. It might be the same company.
So this is like the ultimate TikTok clout Michael Cohen eating invisible hot dogs flex, where you're like, hey, I'm a billionaire. I want a bunch of free press. Let me get into this little tiny submersible, which you literally operate with a PlayStation controller, and try to go to the Titanic. Like, what? Why are billionaires some of the smartest, but also some of the stupidest people on the planet?
I don't know. I have no idea why they enjoy going into titanium soda cans and then floating 30,000 feet or how much ever feet they go under water or whatever it is. But I have no idea what's so enjoyable about sitting in literally a titanium soda can. That's what it is. And when it gets crushed like a soda can. And guess what? Nobody cares. Well, I can't say nobody cares. Your family probably cares. People will make a story about it for a little bit. But at the end of the day, this is so stupid. I have no idea why these bored billionaires are sitting there and they're like, oh, let me spend some money on creating a submersible soda can at the end of the day. And what? I don't get it.
Well, and here's the thing, and this is what I have to say to a lot of these people. I think it's crazy because so it's like like an underwater museum. Only they can afford. No, and I don't disagree. So I've been scuba diving. I'm scuba certified. I love scuba diving. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think it's interesting, and it's relatively safe if you have the training to do so. However, these people, there is no such thing as training for stuff like this. And it makes me really sad because I think that a lot of this comes from a hubris that is built off of being a billionaire, period. There are some billionaires that seek to explore space, like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. And then there are others that seek to explore the ocean. And it's because they've reached peaks in their life financially, which is the first peak most people want to reach. However, you reach that and then you're like, what's next? What's next is then they seek to reach different peaks. You have some, like I said, that reach space, others that reach oceans. And the thing that's crazy to me is only few have decided to try to reach different peaks such as power. And that is what people like Bill Gates and Jeffrey Epstein sought to reach. And those are the ones you don't hear about as much.
Yeah.
But more recently, because of media and social media, we are starting to hear more about them. Fabian?
I was going to say there's nothing wrong, and I want to kind of rephrase when I said there are some of the stupidest people. The actual ship, the one that imploded, they had to cut so many corners to save so much money and so much weight that is what did them in. It wasn't like when Elon builds like a Falcon 9. It has all this regulation around it. They don't cut corners. They do things by the book. They double, triple check everything. Everything has redundancies in case one part fails. If you watch the video on how they made this, they were literally laughing. And I believe Ryan Max said that they used I thought it was a PlayStation controller. Apparently it was like an off-brand one where they're controlling everything with the controller, and they're cutting so many corners that a billionaire who would go in there should say, listen, I know how to run a company. You have to have efficiency. You have to have redundancy. You have to have safety. You have to have protocols. When you remove all that, it's literally you are a stupid billionaire going in it. Just like, Jeff Bezos, I'm sure when he went up into space in his plane, well, technically it's not space, but there was a lot of stuff that they had to do. And they weren't actually, even in space, they still had a way to get back down. This had nothing.
Absolutely. And I just look at stories like this and so many others. And like I said earlier, I could spend this money so much better. I just signed on to debt for law school. Maybe if any billionaire out there is like, hey, maybe I should try to go to the Titanic, would you mind sparing like a quick 50,000 just to help me pay for law school? I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Next, final story. We're going to talk about Kathy Hochul here, the New York governor, who is a racist, but not only is she a racist, she also just says some more dumb things. Here's her talking about Trump supporters. Do we have this one up, production? If not, I can pull it up real quick. But we have her talking about Trump supporters. This is the fifth and final. Do we have that, production? I can.
While we pull that up, this is the same governor who I think last week said that black folks don't know how to use computers.
Exactly.
Right?
That is exactly what she said.
She's on a roll.
She is on a roll. So we go
we
go from the minorities to now we're talking about the silent majority, right? I can't wait to see what she said about Trump.
Here we go.
Trump
right
supporters.
Here. Take a look and a listen.
To be the ringleader and invite all his clowns to a place like the Bronx. New York will never, ever support Donald Trump.
So this is her when she was discussing the Bronx, having the rally at the Bronx. She calls them all clowns. Take a look and listen one more time.
Be the ringleader and invite all his clowns to a place like the Bronx. New York will never, ever support Donald Trump.
My entire belief on this one is it was very similar to the deplorables moment.
Yep.
It was very similar. So New York governor Kathy Hochul. It seems like New York can't do very well on governors either, whether it's a creepy touch man Andrew Cuomo or now racist bigot Kathy Hochul. That's all New York gets. What are your guys' thoughts on this and Kathy Hochul in general?
Listen, between this and the black people don't know what the word computer is, which I mean, oh my gosh, how stupid can you be? Like, how stupid can you be to say those words? What kind of bubble do you live in? What kind of racist hilltop do you live in where you can utter these words and actually, and I don't know if she said it just to be racist specifically, just the fact that you actually believe it. And there was a lot of minorities at that Trump rally. And again, she chose the word clowns. So now those are two racist remarks in a row. I don't know what she's trying to do. Is she trying to get Trump elected secretly? Like, what is going on? I really don't know.
Maybe. I mean, look, obviously she's having a couple bad weeks in a row. And I don't think that will matter for her in her whenever her reelection is. But I think this perfectly represents what Democrats think about the average Trump supporter. They think that they're clowns. They think that they're deplorables. And in the process of creating this narrative, they don't realize how racist, how much of a bigot they actually end up sounding, which is very, very hypocritical because they turn around and call us racist and bigots and whatnot. So it's just hilarious. And again, this is what the elites think about the average American, because the average American is now sitting there and saying, the economy is not good. Immigration is pretty bad. I don't like the status of the current country. I'm going to go and vote for Trump. Well, you got a New York governor sitting there and calling you a clown. So that's where we're at.
Exactly. And this is not the only instance that we've seen of this, right? I've talked, like I said earlier, 2016, Hillary Clinton called Trump supporters deplorables. If you've watched most of the mainstream media, at one point, Rick Wilson did an offensive imitation of a Trump supporter that portrayed them as a hick. If you support Trump, you're an idiot. You're a clown. If you're not 100% with them, then you are in some way less than. And that's the way they see you. Just as you just said, David, if you're not 100% with them, then they hate you. And so only a masochist would enjoy voting Democrat, enjoy voting for these leftists anymore, because they hate you, whether you're actually with them or not. Because even if they're in their ivory towers, even if they're up there, Kathy Hochul in her governor's mansion, she's still looking down on you, no matter whether you like her or not. She's looking down on you because she's up there and you're down there.
You know, as a Democratic voter, here's what you get. This should be the marketing campaign. Vote Democrat. We're going to tell you what to believe. We're going to give you the money. Give us all the power. We are your new parents. And if you don't agree with us, you're a clown. That's basically what they're asking you to do. And I still can't get over the fact that she said, I know we're not talking about this specifically, that Black kids don't know what the word computer is. I would love to see a poll, and maybe Elon Musk, maybe we can get him to do a poll. Ask people, do you as a regular person believe that Black children know what the word computer is? And I would love to see the percentage of a regular person with regular common sense say what they say, and then compare it to what the governor of New York has said. I would love to see that, because that's just one of the most stupidest things I've ever heard anyone say. And these are supposed to be the people who are smart. And I call them bozos a lot of time. And this just shows you how much of a bozo these people really are and how idiots they really are.
Yeah, Fabian, I couldn't agree more with you. They're bozos. They keep pandering to certain people. In the process of pandering to those people, they expose themselves as racists, as bozos and whatnot. So
absolutely. Yeah. And for that, that's all 5 of this week's Cavs, or this Tuesday's Cavs Quick Hits. Boom, boom.
Yes, sir. Great show, guys.
Boom, boom. And of course, it's Tuesday, not Monday, right? We had to enjoy Memorial Day. So I hope you all enjoyed Memorial Day. And thank you for everybody that served, the fallen soldiers, everybody, the freedoms that we get to enjoy in America, this freedom of speech that we're able to deliver here right now wouldn't be possible without those soldiers, without all the tough times that we have had to go through and whatnot. Fellas, let's wrap up the show. So real quickly, make sure that you follow us on Telegram, because that's where you get all the latest updates about everything that's happening at Breakaway. Make sure that you tune in Monday through Saturday. My bad. Monday through Sunday, we got shows, content, everything pumping out for you guys. There's that barcode, screenshot it, or just go to t.me/breakaway.
Absolutely.
We talked about everything. What's up, Kev?
No, I just want to close out tonight and say thank you guys so much for supporting us. We are constantly growing, each of us as individuals, but also as a group, Breakaway USA with Freedom 2.0, and all the different content creators that are under that as well. Like David just said, we have content 7 days a week. You do not have to miss a minute of the news that the lamestream media doesn't want you hearing about. And you can hear it from us here at Breakaway USA. And not only American news, but we have Canadian news. Who else? Does Fox News really cover the crap that's going on in Canada? No, they don't. Does CNN, MSNBC? No, not in the way that we do, even if they do. And so make sure you guys like, subscribe, share, and comment, interact with us, because as my show is called Speechless, Breakaway USA is a movement about each and every one of us being silenced by those that do not want you to hear the stories as we discuss them. So, like I said, like, subscribe, share, comment. God bless you. God bless America. And until next time, thank you.
See you guys very soon. Tune in on Monday for the next show.
Thursday.
Sorry, guys. Thursday. All right.